Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm glad you can join me for story time. This is going to be about my recollection of when I was in heaven making my soul contract with my soul tribe, and the events surrounding that. Not really the details of the contract, because I believe that I have changed that. I have rebuked that anyway. Once I learned how to change things to get a little easier on myself and a little better. But yeah, it started back in my 20s, which would have been in the 90s, when I was going through a moment in time where I was just questioning everything and the whole point of everything, because it felt like just from birth, it was just one thing after another. That's how I felt. Like, am I, a character on a stage in a play? And like the joke's on me. I'm the only one that doesn't know it, though. And this is all being set up. And people have their roles, and they stick to them no matter what you do or how good you are. That gives you a little background. And it wasn't more than a few days after that I had this dream. And when I woke up, I totally knew that it was like Spirit was showing me that this is what I agreed to. This is what happened. And it all was planned to some extent. And I had come here on my own free will. So in the dream, it opens up to this beautiful white room. I guess it was a room. I just saw all white around everywhere. And even though there was supposed to be a white table, I didn't really see the table, but I knew it was there, if that makes sense. Or maybe I just wasn't supposed to pay attention to any of that in the dream, so it wasn't shown to me. I do remember in the right corner of the room, there was like two openings, like doorways. And outside, I could just feel and see the beautiful day, the beautiful clear blue sky. And the sun was shining. It was one of those days where the air is so light and fresh and crisp and clean, and it just felt good. So good, which is not surprising because I was in heaven. Everything, there was no aches and pains or animosity. It was just having a perfect day. That's what it felt like. So I'm sitting at this table with a bunch of other people. And these were my friends. These are people that I had relationships with in heaven and in past lives. And I guess I don't remember how many exactly. There was quite a bunch. I want to say 10 maybe to 15. And I could feel those relationships with them, and they weren't like we would have on Earth, like a brother and sister, husband, wife type thing. It was more like, I remember the one distinctly, male energy, was somebody who I had done many lifetimes with, and I knew no matter what, he would have my back. And it was that very strong bond and love. It was just unexplainable. Probably from the beginning of time, we had done many lives together and had that type of connection. Whereas other ones, it was like a lighter type situation, more just on a friendlier basis, casual kind of thing. There were all different degrees of vibes with each other. So we were sitting there and just talking, like planning things out. And I knew we were planning as in the sense of, I thought we were having fun doing it. Like maybe sometime way in the future, like what if we did this and you played that part and I played this part and then at this time this happened. Like planning all these details that would be in our soul chart and our interactions together and how we come into, the play, at what parts in our lives. And it was very fun. We were having fun doing it. And even walking through a little bit, like the tragedies of what we can learn, like is it worth it? Should we plan it this way? That could be really traumatizing. And so we're having this good vibe. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, okay, let's go to it, and they're getting up. And I'm like, wait a minute. And they start going behind me. And there's this portal on the other side behind me that they are going through to go down to Earth to be born. And I was like, wait a minute, guys. I thought we were just like, this was like just playing around like with ideas, like maybe we're not going to go now. Don't you remember? I'm trying to get their attention. Like, don't you remember how awful it is? It's totally different than just sitting here like, proposing scenarios other than, it's so different than being down there, having to live through it. And it's like hell. And my spirit guide came over to me and I couldn't see him. I felt him there. And he held out his hand and in it was this image. It would be like a tablet, like showing me an image, but I couldn't see the tablet part. I just saw the picture, the video. And it was of all these events taking place, and at this time period now, not actually when I was born, really. And he was basically saying to me, and we were communicating telepathically, not talking, of course. He was like, look how exciting it's going to be. I mean, don't you want to be there with all your friends that you made all these arrangements with? Because if you don't, it's going to mess things up a little bit with all the things you plan together. And, look how exciting it is. All these events, it's a turning point in humanity and the earth. And he showed me all these, to me, what it looked like tragedies. And it did look like civil unrest and fires. Lots of fires in major cities, all like globally, like just havoc everywhere. And I'd seen the one city on fire. And at that point, I was like, basically, are you crazy? Long story short, I mean, I felt this, like I was letting everybody else down that I had made these plans with. And so I decided to go through it because I'm basically like, I will walk through the fire and then I could come back here and rest again. And so he's like, okay, come on. And he went through the portal with me and we went out into, basically it looked like outer space. Like it was all black and void of like time and space, but there were kind of stars off in the distance. And I felt him next to me and he said, now that, you waited a little longer than you should have, the parents that you chose are not able to have you come through now. So you're going to have to pick new parents. And he said, the type of parents that you picked to live out your, soul chart are not available It's either like wait even longer and throw things off, or we have to pick somebody else. And I was like, just pick whomever. I'll make it work. And he's like, well, no, we don't want to be that hasty. Like, let's think about this and figure out the best solution. And I was like, no, just at that point I had it. I'm like, just let's get this over with. Like, to me, it almost, I don't know, I was acting like it would only be seconds when I was down there. But, so he gave in. He's like, okay, but, and so then the next thing, that dream ended there, actually. Once I woke up the next morning, I knew what it was, what they, had showed me, and I was clear on, okay, this is what happened. And I did kind of laugh because I was like, I was peer pressured into coming here. Like, this all makes sense. Like, then I remembered a dream I had when I was younger, like an adolescent, and then maybe into my teens a little bit. It was the same dream, and I was in my mother's womb, and I remember the fluid just being in there, like floating, and kind of just, I knew who I was, my eternal self. I was just being. That's the state I was, being. Then all of a sudden, it was time to be born, and then panic set in, and I didn't want to be born. I was like pleading with whoever, I guess calling on my guide or something, like, let's forget this. No. The next thing I knew, I was looking at this operating room, this white, sterile, dreary operating room, the white wall, and feeling such a heaviness of going, from this light, airy, wonderful feeling in heaven to having a body and feeling the low vibration here, the lower frequencies and people's thoughts and feelings and that. And it was like, ugh, it was one of the worst feelings in the world. And I remember feeling the doctor's energy of being not so nice, just a kind of little bit angry and just like not a nice person. Yeah, and I remember crying so hard and feeling awful, like, oh my God. And then the dream ended. Once I recollected that, later on I had told my mother about these two dreams. And she said, well, that makes perfect sense, because when they were trying to deliver me naturally, I kept turning around and like literally trying to crawl up inside of her. And the doctor was kind of getting tiffed, and he kept turning me around and trying to push me out, and then I would turn back up and go back up, and all progress was lost. So it was a long, painful delivery, and that explains why he was angry, but it also speaks to the type of person he was. So that validated all of that and validated everything that I felt here. Something I look back on quite often when I do kind of get that hopeless feeling, like, what is the point of all of this? It's a comfort to think that someday I will go back there and I will just be able to enjoy what it's like over there, the peace, the quiet. Just I'll go back to enjoying the things that I love to do. And I'm not going to get into peer pressure this time and come back here, probably ever, unless things change drastically, because I'm done with these really hard lessons, at least for, I don't know, centuries maybe. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this story, and if you want to put in the comments any recollections that you have of creating your soul chart or being in heaven, and I'd love to hear those. Okay, everyone, take care, and I will talk to you next time.